G'day guys, welcome to episode 21 of Ask Woodford. As always, I'm with my co-host, Big Jarrad Kay. You guys voted me on and he is a very educated and smart man, so it's good to have him on the show. Now, we have a lot of questions, so Alex, you're going to fire them away.
Yep.
We're going to answer to the best of our ability because we've both got different skill sets. Go.
All right. In regards to your basketball athletes, do you load them differently compared to your more average-sized athletes?
When he says low, we're talking about weight, obviously.
Oh, no, like length, how they're taller and how sometimes they won't fit under a barbell.
Okay, well, you can start because you've got a few.
Is there an emphasis placed on running mechanics, taking into consideration dribbling in the basketball, probably interfering with their mechanics? That's what he says.
We would do running drills with them, like we do speed training, change of direction training, lateral movement, etc. In terms of the basketball, we don't do much sport-specific stuff here. We leave that for their training. There's skill training. There's skill training and there's gym training, strength training, speed training. And that's what we focus on. That's our specialty, and we're not going to go beyond our scope. In terms of basketball athletes, because they are a lot taller than your average athlete, sometimes we have to chock them up with a trap bar. We put them up on 25s, depending on how tall they are. With a squat, we have to put blocks on their box so they don't have to go down as far. With the bench press, we'll put blocks on their chest so they're...
Minimize the range.
Yeah, we just want to limit the range because they're very long-limbed athletes.
I mean, I just think for my behalf, training Hodge was a big one where I thought so Hodge, shout out to him. And look, he's got, as Jarrad said, look, you've just got to, you know what, at the end of the day, you just have to manipulate and vary the movement based on each individual athlete's requirements. And if they've got long levers, they've got greater range of motion. So you're not going to squat on full range. So how I do it with Hodge, and I've seen Jarrad do it with his basketball guys, is a squat is a fantastic lower body strength movement. It's a quad dominant movement. We just stack the plates up. As they improve their mobility and motor control, we take the plates away for overload.
And we tend to have a greater time of training in a front-loaded position. So whether it be a goblet squat or a front rack squat. Why? Because when the bar's on their back, as these guys have incredibly long torsos. It's easier for them to brace, or it's greater for them to maintain a brace through reps when the bar is positioned or the weight's positioned at their front. Sometimes with the excessive hinge of a back squat, issues can arise at the torso through bracing. So build up strength, build up work capacity with a front-loaded position.
There's not much, you're not going to train much differently to any other athletes. The only difference is most basketballs are tall guys. They've got long levers. You just got to be careful with it as much as possible. Remember, risk first, reward when choosing exercise selection. Next question.
Oh, we've got Instagram Live, immortal strength. Do you believe there's an interference effect between strength and hypertrophy?
Normally there's an interference effect between anaerobic and aerobic means, so it'll be strength and endurance. Look, such a wide open question because you've got a novice, right? You're going to do loading parameters of hypertrophy and you get stronger. It's a wide open question. If you've got someone who's very strong and then you do hypertrophy work, well, you've dropped the strength stimulus.
Well,
do you understand?
Other people's training programs where they do a max effort day, a repetitive effort day, and a dynamic effort day. You can train for different strength or different athletic attributes in the 1 week. That's not a problem. Are you going to inhibit or reduce possible gains in either? I think there's a lot of research where you can go out and do that, but we do a lot of strength training at the start of our sessions through our compound lifts, and then at the end of our training we go towards more of a hypertrophy method of training for upper body.
I think what Jarrad brought up well there as well, the Westside Barbell method, which has been kind of like used for athletes, dynamic effort, repeat effort, and maximal effort. We actually use that here. We're actually non-linear. So what I mean non-linear, undulating, so we train multiple qualities at once. But saying that though, linear works as well. Everything works. As I've always said, the best program is the program that works for that athlete. So like I say, Jarrad with a lot of his juniors, he does a lot of explosive speed-based work at the start. Then he does the lifting, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I see that, I really enjoy that.
It's all skill-based at the start. Teach them to run, teach them to jump, teach them to throw.
Well, I think that's what you've done here at Woodford. I think that Jarrad's area, your area is real junior athlete development. You really put your name on that. I really believe next 5 to 10 years, I believe that Jarrad will be like the #1 guy junior development. I honestly believe that.
That's what I'm hoping for.
So I think you'll start getting asked.
Set the bar high.
I think my thing with you is I reckon people start asking you, to do conferences and stuff because junior athlete development is not well done.
No, not in Australia.
Nah. So I think, you watch the next 5 years, you'll see what I'm saying.
I went to a gym over in America, Parisi Speed School, and they've been around for a long time. And they asked me, when do you start your athletes? I said, around 12, but we have had some 10-year-olds come in. And he goes, we start them here at 6. Wow. 6 years old, and I was just baffled. I was like, I don't understand how you could control a group of 6-year-olds. Like, I've had younger brother, younger sister growing up, and them and their friends. It's just frantic at that age. And then I looked at these athletes because I spent a whole day at the gym. They had 12-year-olds coming in lifting some weight, like lifting weight. They are 16-year-olds were lifting.
They've been in the program for 5 years.
Yeah, they were lifting it smooth. They were lifting it quickly. They had no issues. They moved like athletes already. And I asked these kids, like, what's your goal? And like, I want to get into a good college. From 12 years old, these kids were thinking about college is where my life is going towards. Like, so now I'm prepping. You ask a 12-year-old kid what he's doing here in Australia, and he's only worried about tomorrow. He's not even worried about tomorrow. He's worried about the next 10 minutes.
They wouldn't know the difference between their biceps or their hamstrings, really.
That's it. So I think there's a big difference, and hopefully, with population growing and sport getting bigger and more professional, hopefully that junior athlete development becomes a lot bigger here and starts to be a greater emphasis is placed on it. Let's get these kids in early.
Correct. Right. With Jarrad 100% on that.
Got the junior program.
So junior program, we've actually got the open day, which I will be there at Alex.
23rd of December.
I forget. They've got to remind me. So I'll be there. I'll talk to all the parents as well. 23rd. You might actually, if you might see, I don't know, Jarrad might be there on a Saturday because you're normally there on a Saturday as well.
I'll be around on a Saturday.
So talk to Jarrad because he's got a fair bit of experience in that stuff. For me, I just want to check it out and talk to all the parents, talk to all the kids as well because it's an educational thing, as Jarrad said.
Right.
Next question.
So we got Bo. He's starting to become a trainer, and his question for you is someone who is new to this fitness game. What 3 books, articles would you recommend to help someone along this journey?
Jarrad, you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start with one of the books that I read first off the bat was Starting Strength. And for barbell training, I think that is the pinnacle of books to start with. The education behind it.
That's funny you say that because that was the first book I read. So I think Starting Strength, let's tick off Starting Strength 1.
Starting Strength was great for me to
Mark
read.
Whippletoe.
Mark Whippletoe, very, very, very intelligent guy. And it's a constant thing I go back to read. And he covers all the big lifts and variations of the big lifts.
Yep.
And, what about you? What's your book of choice?
I think that Training and Practice of Strength Training by Vachowski. I think we've got it in there. Do you want to go get it out? And then we've got a few in there. Bring it out. And then, as you guys know, I'm a big fan of Boyle and DeFranco. Actually, you know what? I'll show you the best book I've ever bought, actually.
Oh, here you go. Buy all this.
So, I've read this one a lot. This has been big for me. Science Practice of Strength Training. I keep going back to that. It is a dense read. You want to know my best ever, and I know Jarrad likes this one. Kelly Starrett.
Yeah.
Jarrad likes this one, but I'll tell you what, guys. If you ever want to read a book that, in my opinion, is the best of athlete development, it's this. Functional Training for Sports by Mike Boyle. The guy's a genius. Read this back to front, side to side. As you guys know, DeFranco Strength, and as Jarrad perfectly said, Mark Whippletoe Starting Strength. It's funny, when I started my career, I got told to read this as well. So it's funny that it's been passed across the ages. I'll be reading it as well. It just gives you a good foundation to understand fundamental motor patterns.
And then, Bo, I think another important thing for you as well is find an area of training that you're very interested in and start finding research articles, journal articles, peer-reviewed articles on that topic, whether it be, for me, it's ACL rehabilitation or long-term athlete development model. I read up about those two things, and sometimes you can get you can drown in information in this industry. There's so much information out there. There's so much material out there. I think it's also good to have another interest of reading if you're a keen reader. So I read a lot of true crime books. I'm massive on true crime, just to declutter my life, get me thinking about something else. So with all this material here and your research area, find another topic to read about, another genre, and immerse yourself in that.
I think that's a good point. What you want to be doing is, I got told early on, you're always going to be a generalist, but then you're going to have areas that you enjoy, right? So for me, my area of neurological adaptation, I've always loved that. Strength, power, speed. Now for Jarrad, long-term athlete development, ACLs. You look at J, sports science, conditioning, right? Everyone at Woodford's kind of got their own little area that you want. So that's what I'm working towards with our guys. I think we're doing quite well. So, Stubbsy trains a lot of the women. Jess as well trains the women as well. And then you're starting with your junior stuff. So that's what I think what Jarrad said was right when he first came down. He wanted to have an area of interest, and his was junior athlete development. He really enjoyed it, and he followed through with it. Not everyone's going to enjoy that, but you need to find something that you enjoy and then just follow through with it. And exactly what Jarrad said, you can't always just read those books. Read something out as an outlet. Next question.
This one's from Aladdin in Sweden.
Aladdin.
There's a good name.
Are you serious, Aladdin?
I'm 100%.
Does he have a flying carpet?
How would you he's got 2 questions. How would you program a workout for a boxer that's going pro? I'm going to throw that one out first.
Yeah, okay. So I've trained amateur guys. I've trained pro guys. We all know you're a fundamentalist. The only thing I would be adding on to boxers, and I'm sure Jarrad would agree with me, is you hit the foundational strength movement on my big 6, our big 6, and then you do some rotational stuff, which is so important. I think that's what I'd add on. I don't know about you, Jarrad, but I'm real big on that stuff.
Yeah, so Christian and I we train on the same methods, the same principles, but we've got very different styles of coaching. He's all about his big 6 and his conditioning at the end. I'm very movement based as a coach, and I've just adopted that recently. So I get my boxers that I train, and I've got a couple of them. Shout out to Corey Allen if he's watching. A lot of movement based stuff at the start. Get really strong through the hips, get strong through the glutes, in all types of different movements. So I'm big on bear crawls and inchworms and different animal flow is a big one for me. Mike Fitch, I really like following his stuff. And then with boxers, the fun thing I think about training boxers is they are crazy fit. Boxers are crazy fit. So what you can do, what you can put them through in terms of conditioning is far exceeds all the football guys I train, any gen pop athlete I train, or any other person. So you can really have some fun getting creative with some conditioning ratios for them. Yeah,
so I've got a kid, Campbell, who'll be on the show in the next few weeks. Obviously, Jarrad trains with him. I've known him since he was a kid, training for a long time. He, all we've been doing with him, we keep it very simplistic. We do a fair bit of explosive work, rotational work, a fair bit of mobility, glute, as Jarrad said, hip strength, glute strength. Very important. You still need good movement mechanics. So at the end of the day, as Jarrad said before at the start, we are not the skill. We will not load the skill. That is for their sport. That's why they go to training. So we develop the physical adaptation, then transfer the specific skill.
And what I found really valuable, because when I started training with Campbell, I saw boxing from a different perspective and how I could adapt training to train boxers. And all their power comes from the floor. All their power comes from
ground
the hips.
base. Yep.
So it's all ground-based power, and that gave me a great insight into what I'm actually going to do with them in the gym. You got your compound lifts, which are going to help work and help create strength
and power potential.
Strength and power, rate of force development, power to weight ratio, etc. But there's a lot of different ways that I can adapt my training to help them in their sport. Not being sport specific, but being movement specific in the gym. And I think if you are going to train a certain population of athletes in one sport, go and play that sport if you haven't already played that sport, or go and train with an athlete of that sport just to get a greater understanding of the movement needs for the sport.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. You've got to, you don't have to be like a professional at it, but I think what Jarrad brings up the fair point is you want to actually be able to understand the movement patterns, at least understand them and understand the ins and outs of the sport. I think he's right with saying that.
When I was training with boxing with Campbell, it's crazy the amount of balance you have to have. I'm throwing punches, I'm blocking punches, pivoting off my back leg, moving around. And when I'm throwing punches and moving forward and having to think about all this other stuff, react to his cues, I find myself off balance all the time.
Yeah.
And whether that's dropping my center of mass or positioning my body better. So
and that's where conditioning comes in, to be able to hold your form for longer. Next question.
His second part of his question, probably a quick one. In pre-season football players talking about soccer that have weak hamstrings, what could he as a coach focus on in rehab and strength?
First of all, I'd look at eccentric loading for the hamstrings. You hit your proximal hamstring through your RDLs, your distal hamstring through like your Nordics, or I do actually something in between where I do a hamstring slider. So, and I think, Jarrad, you've done it before, you bridge up, so your hips are in extension, your glutes on, then your knees extend. So not only are you hitting your glute max, but you're getting that eccentric loading through the hamstring at the distal portion, which is so critical.
Yeah.
I'd also work on what I've found is lower body strength, therefore lower body power and speed. Working on high velocity sprints, and then having the conditioning to repeat high intense effort to prolong fatigue.
And excel, decel,
Correct.
acceleration work,
Yes.
deceleration work.
Yep, that'd be a big one. A lot of people miss that. And everything we do is just ticking boxes, tick, 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 tick boxes.
So once again, you have to go back to the principles of training. Load monitoring is a massive thing.
Yep.
So check what load the running your athletes are doing in their pre-season to adjust the way you're training them and how much load you're putting through them in the gym as well, because our goal is to keep the athletes on the park.
And just remember though, we're in the private sector, so we can only do so much. So it's an educational thing. They're not full time, so we do the best we can, and then it's outside of our realm. So we can educate them. They've got to listen to their bodies, and that's where I'm a big believer in understanding the athlete, but also giving the power back to athlete for them to understand their body, because no one understands their body better than him, you, or everyone else. That's my
coach them to coach themselves.
Correct. Very good.
Jaden Bullard.
Yes. Jaden.
What's a good basic running program to follow for AFL pre-season at the local level?
God, I'll be going with Jarrad here, not me.
Is for conditioning?
Yeah, just say conditioning.
Yeah, for conditioning.
He didn't actually say conditioning.
Oh, but you'd be saying conditioning.
Just think LSD, long, slow distance running, is out. It's out. Don't do it. I never get any athlete, no matter what they do, even I deter my triathletes away from going out and running long, slow distance, even though that is their sport. I've got my own reasons for that. I won't go into it now, but long, slow distance is out. You want repeat efforts. Football's all about repeat effort, repeat effort, repeat effort. So I start high and work my way down in duration of running. So 8 minutes is the longest I'll get my guys to run for, and that's still a long time. Like, they're going to reach a steady state pretty quickly in 8 minutes of running. And we can talk about this question forever. I like to have different modalities of running with my pre-season guys. So I'll have one where they're reaching more of a steady state run, a bit higher in duration, so 6 to 8 minutes. I'll have another one where I might use fartlek running, so a 2-to-1 work to rest ratio. And then I'll have another one where they may be working off distance. And again, I'm using rest periods according to what duration they use for their distance. So if I'm going out and they're running 800s and they're running it in 2:30, I might give them double time off. And then the next week I might give them 1.5 off. And the week after I might give them 1-to-1. So we're just constantly progressing their running. Like, you don't have to be that aggressive, but that's a good base to go on for now.
I think that for me, I'm a big GPP guy. I like to get them off their legs, but if you're talking about a running-based program, I'm really big on getting your actual small-sided games at training, 2 birds, 1 stone, skill and the conditioning, because you're going to get that specific accel, decel, change direction. But at the end of the day, man, you need to do some sort of running-based work.
Can you chuck my email up? Get this guy to email me, and I'll actually send him a base running program that I use. The first month of a base running program that I use, and then he can go from there.
Yeah. So there we go. Yeah, I think that for me, I mean, I've always passed the conditioning stuff off. That's why it's always good to get guys like Jarrad and Jay who are actually pretty good at that stuff, and they understand it. So, next question.
Gotcha. Next one from Bailey Perez.
Yep.
In regards to building strength and power, for example, for a rugby player in pre-season, where the focus would be on powerful lifts, would you prescribe a barbell box squat instead of a normal full squat?
Yep.
If so, why?
Okay, so you've got to think about it this way, Bailey. Is it Bailey?
Yes.
So think about it this way, right? You can use full range squats, half squats, quarter squats. They've all got merit. It's actually been shown half squats and quarter squats have more transference to jumping performance and sprinting performance than full range squats. But here's the kicker for you, right? As a variation, and if they've got no structural abnormalities, structural issues in terms of like an FAI for their hips, and they can go to depth and they're competent, in the off season, I would like to do full range squats because that endocrine hormonal response and a hypertrophy response. And then as they get close to season, you bring the box back in and you minimize the range depending on how they are because it's in season. So I don't see any issue with going full range as long as they're being cleared structurally. Look, once again, there's many ways to skin a cat. You just need to choose the right exercise at the right time of season and for what goal.
Yeah, just be able to justify your program, justify what you're doing, keep it safe.
Yep, wrist first rod, yep.
Beautiful. Daniel Ritzvetsky. I've been front squatting alone and I was running. What point in time weight would be too much to front squat? Also thoughts on weight belts and when to introduce one.
So you should be squatting these days. It's about 90% of your back squat should be your front squat. That's give or take around about, right? 90% around. You should be able to hit 90%, right? So if you're doing a back squat 100 kilos, you should be 90 kilos front squat for a single. You understand that? When he talks, what was his question? He was saying about
how much weight is too much weight.
Well, I've seen guys front squat 150, 160. I mean, that's the open-ended question. Yeah. In terms of your weight belts, when you're going heavy, I love them. Intra-abdominal pressure, lighter, you don't need them, but when they go heavy, I don't see why not.
I think specifically, there's a certain point where you go, all right, is it 80%, 90%? Let's use a weight belt now.
Change your tempo. Oh yeah, use a weight belt once you're getting heavy.
Yeah.
But change your tempo up. Pause at the bottom. Fight out of the bottom. That's going to help you brace through.
Develop starting strength as well.
Yeah, develop starting strength. Yep. I'm doing 3-second pauses on my front squat at the moment to assist me with getting my deadlift off the floor.
Yep, good.
So once you have mastered something or you're very highly competent in one modality of squatting, chuck a variance into it. Chuck a pause in it, slower tempo, slower eccentric, etc.
You could do like what Jarrad said. Eccentrics, isometrics,
6 to 8
safety bar,
eccentrics.
Front squat, back squat, box squat. Remember, all you are doing is slightly change the neuromuscular activation patterns to increase task complexity and thereby overload. That was my project anyway. So when you look at tempo, Jarrad's right, and I think a lot of the guys it's real good for my guys being here when they use tempo, and I see them use tempo because they know how it works. So when I see Jarrad or the Jay or the other boys, man, trust me, tempo works when they need something more of a stimulus. So I think that risk versus reward, and just always remember, as Jarrad said, you got to be able to.
Even though we were once told, tempo doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, we were actually, weren't we? Yeah. Oh man,
we just heard once that tempo doesn't mean anything.
We're at a course, and obviously all my guys know about my project, and someone asked him, I didn't ask him, someone said, what do you think of tempo? And he goes, yeah, you don't need tempo. And the
first to their own, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And Jay does these ones. Turned to me and goes like this, I didn't really care. Jarrad's right, man, each your own. But I think, tempo is fantastic because... And
as we said, it's a great way to vary your exercise.
Yeah, and also, especially when someone's first learning the movement, give them a tempo. Give them a tempo so they learn the movement better. Greater sensory input, greater learning the skill.
Correct.
Yep. Alex Hoskin.
Yep.
What are your biggest myths or mistakes you see in sprinting?
Jarrad?
Biggest myths or mistakes?
What are the biggest wastes of time?
Oh, mate, first of all, I'll start with this one actually. Fast feet ladders. I've been over before. Fast feet doesn't get you paid. You're actually not going anywhere fast. You just it's like that quick guy, right? I've gone through this before in a video. If you think about it, acceleration is correlated by your ability to apply force on the ground, so ground contact times are longer. That's why strength is so important for developing power and speed, because if you're stronger, you're going to apply more force around, you're going to jump higher, run quicker, Newton's third law, right? So that's the first thing, fast feet ladders. And the second one that annoys the shit out of me is a parachute. Now, the reason why I don't like a parachute is because it can change the wind resistance coming up and down, so it's going to change your mechanics. You become less efficient. It's terrible. I wouldn't.
You think it's that much of a resistance?
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Anything that's altering your natural gait. With people who do sled runs, and they do acceleration work with sled runs, and they just stack on weight so much that it's affecting their actual natural gait. Technique. Waste of time. Gait shouldn't be affected by external load.
Correct. Yep, they're the biggest things we see. Many thanks.
Better question to ask for a sprint coach. Like, I don't want to step on any toes and say too many things, but that's what we see here in the gym. Or we see videos of other performance coaches using these tools to improve sprinting.
Acceleration. Yeah, he's right with saying that. Like, at the end of the day, we're not sprint coaches. We develop field-based sport athletes. We coach fundamental sprint techniques. So,
do you have any then? Because he's asking another one. Do you have any resources?
Yeah,
favorite sprinting?
Charlie Francis. That's a classic, Charlie Francis. He was a Canadian sprint coach. Ben Johnson, yes, Ben Johnson was gearing. But Charlie Francis, I don't know who else, Parisi, I guess.
You know what, I train a few high-level sprinters that have been at nationals and trying to qualify for Com Games. Best way to learn about sprinting is either their coaches who have been sprint coaching for 20, 30 plus years, or the athletes themselves. They can teach you a lot.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's who I go to and ask questions about, or ask for drills and technique, etc. So they're good resources.
Yep. Shout out to Sean Farnham, who's been with me from the start. If you want to see perfect technique, and Jarrad, you've seen him before run, he's got the best technique.
Crisp.
Oh, best technique. And someone said to me, "What do you do with him?" I just physically prepare him with strength and power. We don't touch their technique. That's what they got the skills coach for.
Yeah.
Next question.
Pat J Mclaughlin.
Yep.
He'd like to get some answers from a professional who knows what they're talking about. What are some of the best football-specific exercise needed to perform at the highest level? What sort of programs do you run?
You don't really need. This is where people get like. I'm guessing he's saying football in terms of soccer, because that's like someone would say that. Is he saying soccer? We don't know, right? So let's assume that he's saying any football, right? And he's asking for specific exercise. Am I correct?
Yes.
Well, once again, you go back to our big 6 movements that lay the foundation. If you are not competent on those 6 movements, you control the fancy stuff. It's not going to mean anything. So first, number 1, nail those big 6. From there, that's where you can really start to get a little bit more fancy, single leg work, explosive work, jumps. That's what I'll be doing anyway. Remember, at the end of the day, our job is to make athletes more efficient. So when they're on the football field, they perform at a high level, they don't get injured.
I think teaching them qualities as well is, I think, of a high value. So teach them intention to move quickly. Teach them about learning about their own body, so they understand how their body should be moving, what their body should be doing, how to look after their body. Teach them about force absorption.
Landing, decelerating, yep.
Control, all the little things like balance, a proper warm-up, what to do, mobility for their body, so for different joints within their body that need mobility. Make their weaknesses their strengths. Those things are going to help underpin a successful athlete.
Yep, very well said.
All right. This is about rowing. Do you have any tips for rowers? Example, how to train effectively outside of the sport itself? Or a simpler question, best way to physically prepare yourself for a 2-kilometer race when you lack power, flexibility in hips and hamstrings?
Well, 2 things on that. Number 1, Jarrad actually trains Loretto, the rowing team, but I trained Liam Donald, who actually rows for Australia under 23s. What I did with him was a lot of, because you got to look at the rowing movement. It's actually a triple extension movement. So we did heaps of Olympic lifting with him, squats, deadlifts.
Well, it's triple flexion,
triple flexion, triple extension. Exactly. So exactly. Squats, deadlifts. I hit all your big compounds. I did heaps of Olympic lifting with him because you're lifting heavy weight quickly. Once again, as Jarrad said,
competent, Olympic lifting is great for rowers.
Yep, fantastic. Yep.
So I've been at Loretto for 3 years now, teaching junior girls rowing, and I do all their dry land training. And the big thing about what we do and the emphasis of our program is teaching them how to use their body, teach them how to brace. Rowing's such a difficult sport because you need to be powerful, you need to be explosive,
endurance.
You also need endurance. So you've got power and endurance, which we know are 2 different spectrums. So teaching them really strong through the core. Obviously, they need to develop a hinge pattern. They need to develop being able to push. So any squatting, step up, lunge, they need to be strong. Rowing's a head to toe sport, really. They need to be strong through their upper body. They need to have good protraction, retraction.
Strength, horizontal pulling. Yeah, listen, one thing that I found was a lot of them end up with back issues just because they're in flexion the whole time to their hips and they're random over.
That's where I was going next. The hips are so important. So we spend about 10 minutes at the start of our sessions just on their hips. Their hips and their glutes, but more specifically their hips, because you think about when they're in the boat or on an erg, they're constantly in this flex position with their hips where they're getting their knees right up to their chest, and they have to have really good dorsiflexion as well so that their knees are going over their toes properly. So if your body isn't designed to be a rower, you're already in struggle street. Like, rowers need to be really long. More length, the better for rowing. Working through the hips, teaching them to brace through their core, and getting work capacity through the body as well. Because if they're not sitting down in the erg or sitting down in the boat, they're sitting down at school, or they're sitting down on the way to school, or they're probably at home doing their homework. So their hips are constantly in this flex position. So getting good extension, good range through the hips is really important. So my biggest thing for you be look after your hips.
We did a fair bit of
and your back.
Yeah, I did a fair bit with Liam, and I'm not a big fan of it, but deep TVA pelvic floor activation, like Jarrad said, and then you integrate it in with your glute work, which is to me a core stabilizer as well of your hips.
Yep.
I think it's very important because that's going to save your back. So they're my two biggest things. So if you bring them all together, it's pretty much similar hints for all out. So just be careful, save your back, and you want longevity in the sport. Next question. That's 11 done. Excellent. Beautiful. So before I end this, I want to bring up two things because I've been getting a lot of messages about it. Number one was Shandor. It was unfortunate. Things like that do happen, and it's happened to me. I'm not perfect. We're not. This is, it's funny. I was talking to a guy, physio, about this, and you could have the best training intervention in the world, but it still might not stop from ACL. So I want to let everyone know I'm not perfect. We as a company aren't perfect. We don't have all the answers. And that's the second time that's the first ACL it's done that I've had it, but I've actually had a person who's re-ruptured it as well. So that's the second time. It's very humbling in terms of it.
Unfortunately, it happens.
Yeah,
One of my boys did it at the start of the year this year, and it was just from coming down and landing in the last quarter, in the last 2 minutes of a game. I'm like, what do you put it down to? Do you put it down to fatigue? Do you put it down to poor preparation? It's just, you can constantly question yourself. There's
too many variables you
can
think
go
of.
through your program endlessly, but at the end of the day, sport is sport, and
it's
things
chaotic.
happen.
Yeah. So I just think that I just want to touch on that. At the end of the day, him and I, and to him, this company, he's a fantastic ambassador. He'll be back in the off season. He will come back like a true champion.
And he'll be back.
Yep.
He'll be back.
Yep.
Definitely.
And the last thing I want to touch on, because I just keep getting messages about it, was the functional patterns debate. It wasn't really a debate. Listen, I don't like fighting on the internet. I think it's stupid. I think it's immature. It wastes a lot of people's time. But at the end of the day, I want people to understand where I'm coming from, where we're all coming from. That's our profession we chose. If you're going to come out and slag us off, and he kept doing it, I said how I felt, which everyone knows I do. That will be the last time I really talk about it. He's obviously going to have his way. He's stuck in his way, and he's obviously got some fantastic results. So good on him. But going around bashing other people's, and I haven't been the best at this, but bashing other people's methods, for me, I don't respect that. And we talked up about it. It's done, it's closed, and for all the people who came on and supported us, I really do appreciate, because a lot of people appreciate our support, and let's keep developing this industry, because in 2018 we're taking this up a notch. So I really appreciate you guys following this show, following this company. I want to thank Jarrad for being my co-host from now on. He's doing a real good job.
Every week, here we go.
So for a guy who started with Woodford as a raw guy, started training with us, to now watching him grow. He's very educated and smart, and he's maturing a lot, which is fantastic to see on my behalf. So, Jarrad, I think you're doing a fantastic job.
Mate. Cheers. Good to be here.
Yep. So, Jarrad will be a staple. We've actually got Bailey Lewis next week, which should be interesting, because he has been he's been at Woodford since I can remember. I've trained since he was 15, so it's going to be interesting when he comes in, because I just ask him stupid questions and Jarrad will ask him normal questions. So he's a fantastic kid, and I'm very close with him. I'm close with his mum as well. So he is ranked 1 in Australia, top 15 in the world. The week after, we're going to have his boxing coach on, Campbell Somerville, go on the Commonwealth Games. He's ranked 1 in Australia. So we've got a few good guests coming up before the end of the new year. So keep watching, subscribe to this video. If you want to check out anything on the Woodford shop, go to woodfordshop.com. Any apparel that you see here, we are selling it. We'll increase our range. Also, remember, parents, the Junior Development Workshop, free. Bring your kids down. It's going to sell out. Anything you want to say before we end?
No, just thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to being on the show. He's the yin, I'm the yang. We'll make this show roll on.
I think, I've been impressed with Jarrad. I'll be honest with you, Jarrad's first one, he was the best. Jay's going to hate me saying this. He's really going to hate me saying this. But Jarrad, Jay and I are quite different, where Jarrad's, we work a lot better together. We work well together, but Jarrad's one that he went on, I was quite impressed. So I thought, you know what? Let's throw it out to the people. You guys wanted Jarrad.
People wanted me.
And people
like,
I
feel
got
humbled.
that's episode 20, Alex.
21.
We will see you next week with Bailey Lewis for episode 22. Myself and Jarrad Kay signing off. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you next week.